Well, welcome everybody to the Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Committee meeting. Today we have our topic is local and state 2025 priorities, and we have our Morgan Hill Mayor Mark Turner will present, and also we have Hanna Bar-Ness, who is a field representative for Santa Clara County for Assembly Member Gail Pellerin, and she'll present. Why don't we virtually go around the virtual table here and introduce ourselves just so we know who everybody is. I am Rick Kent. I am the co-chair of the Economic Development Committee and member of the board and retired CFO from Pyramid. Nick, you want to?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Happy 2025. Nick Gage from the Chamber of Commerce.
Lori?
Happy New Year, everyone. Lori Allen, Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce.
Mayor Turner.
I'm Mark Turner, Mayor of Morgan Hill.
Mario.
Mario Banuelos, board member of the chamber.
Alex.
Hi, good morning. Happy New Year. Alex Kenneth, local hanger-on and member of the Open Space Authority.
Steve McFarland.
Good morning. I'm with the Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce.
Joe.
Joe Mahler, resident and member of the Planning Commission.
John McKay.
Good morning, everyone. John McKay, private citizen, board member, visit Morgan Hill and Morgan Hill Downtown Association.
Marby.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Marby Lee. Excuse me. I'm a realtor with Real Brokerage.
Armando Garcia.
Good morning, all. Armando Garcia, board member, Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce.
John Horner.
Good morning, everyone. Happy New Year. John Horner, trustee and current board president, Morgan Hill Unified School District.
Larry Carr.
Hey, good morning. Happy New Year, everyone. Larry Carr. I serve on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce and represent the Boys and Girls Clubs of America.
Matt Mayhood.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Matt Mayhood, Economic Development Director, City of Morgan Hill.
Hanna.
Hi, I'm Hanna. I'm a field representative for Assembly Member Pellerin. I cover Morgan Hill and South County specifically.
Well, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Steve Tate. You're muted, Steve.
He represents silent movies.
Okay.
Nope.
Steve Tate. Happy New Year, everybody. Steve Tate. I'm a community volunteer.
Kathy Napoli.
Good morning. My name's Kathy Chavez Napoli, trustee at the Gavilan Community College, member of Kiwanis, chair of the Citizens Oversight Committee for the Morgan Hill Unified School District.
Brittany Sherman.
Everyone, Brittany Sherman, Economic Development Coordinator, City of Morgan Hill.
Brian Sullivan.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a citizen of Morgan Hill.
Katie.
Good morning, everyone. Katie Young with Heritage Bank of Commerce and Morgan Hill Chamber of Commerce board member.
Victor Gomez.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Victor Gomez with Pinnacle Strategy. I'm a local government affairs consultant. Good to see everybody this morning.
And Victoria.
Good morning. I'm Victoria San Nicolas, Area Director of Sales at the La Quinta Morgan Hill.
Well, welcome everybody. And again, thank you for attending and Happy New Year. Why don't we get started? And Mr. Mayor.
Okay, very good. I will talk. And again, we've got, just so you know, we've got our economic development team here with Matt and Brittany, and they can certainly participate in this conversation, answer questions, and be a part of the conversation. So thank you for allowing me to at least talk about what some of our economic priorities are going into 2025. As many of you are familiar with the city's economic blueprint, I think many of you have participated in the development of that back in 2017. That document still is a guiding document for us as we go forward into 2025 with our economic development priorities. And those four areas basically are the innovation and advanced manufacturing, retail, tourism, and healthcare. And those are still the four areas that we remain focused on and are working to fulfill. So I'll go through some of these, the priorities here, these four areas, and talk about some of the work that's being done and being considered, I should say, and how we prioritize these areas. For instance, tourism. The things that we'll be doing is support the growth of quality hotel lodging room inventory, require hotel development on the 4 identified parcels, invest in new and upgraded public facilities, sports and recreation, support private investment in new attractions and assets. And I can tell you, I'm working with a group of residents that were able to get a 501c3 established in order to actually help find funding for some of our sports facilities, and the outdoor sports complex kind of being the main focus. And so there's so much potential there. I've talked about that in the past, especially with having a consultant do a study on this back in 2017. The outdoor sports complex is a golden opportunity for the city with regard to youth and recreation tourism. So for me in particular, that is a main focus that I'm working on. It's one of many that the city staff is working on. I want to promote music and entertainment, support Visit Morgan Hill TBID work program, support the downtown PBID program as well. When we move into the areas around innovation and advanced manufacturing, tenant available assets is something we're being focused on. In the area of retail, it's working to attract new and emerging brands, incentivize preferred uses. In the area of healthcare, it's support Rosewood entitlements for Sutter Health and attract new providers and services. There's some other priorities too that I think is important to mention. Economic mobility. We want to expand our outreach to the Hispanic business community and Spanish-speaking entrepreneurs, provide resources, tools, information, and support business growth and connection for small businesses. Workforce development is also a priority. We want to conduct business roundtable focused on identifying employer needs and potential intern opportunities, partner with the Chamber, the Morgan Hill Unified School District, Gavilan College, et cetera, in order to make sure that we can develop a workforce development program that is successful and vibrant. And so those are kind of those areas right there. It's a short presentation on my part, but I know many of you have questions, and I'm happy to answer some of those and also direct those to Matt and to Brittany as well in order to get you the best information.
Okay, questions for the mayor? Armando.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Mark Turner, that was great summation. I have a question regarding LAFCO. I understand that in the past, we've had a difficult time in incorporating property for the sports facilities. Do you see anything changing in that area from the state or the LAFCO and their cooperative nature to help us expand in the county?
Well, the LAFCO is, of course, there's 58 state agencies of LAFCO. Every county has one, but it is controlled more so by county. And so the county, if you saw recently, Supervisor Arenas has put together and has introduced an Office of Economic Opportunity, which we're very supportive of, and we provided a letter to asking them to consider other options, being sports and recreation being one of those areas. And so they were primarily focused a lot on ag tourism and that sort of thing, all very important. But we're recommending that they also consider sports tourism on those lands. As it stands, it's currently very, very difficult to get any lands annexed into the city through LAFCO. It's very, very difficult. But what we're hoping is that with the work of the county, some of that county land would be more available in order to do some of these tourism opportunities. And through that, we would certainly benefit from those efforts.
Great. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, Nick.
First, I want to thank you, Mayor, for providing that update. I know there's a lot on the plate in 2025 and 26, and it's a matter now of commitment and penetration into each one of these projects. But I wonder if you could expand a little bit on Sutter Health. I mean, bringing Sutter Health into Morgan Hill is really a significant move. It's one of the premier providers, obviously, well beyond the Bay Area. But we know we've got a lot of businesses as well as residents that are a part of the Sutter Health team. So can you give us just a little more detail on kind of where we are with that? You know, what's the forecast as far as the long range plans for Sutter, and just to give us a better feel for kind of what direction we're going with Sutter.
Yeah, I will do that. I'm going to make a few comments and then turn it over to Matt to get into the greater detail about that. I think if you were paying attention over the last couple of weeks, the Mercury News ran an article indicating that Sutter Health is actually investing, I think, if I'm not mistaken, $800 million in the city of Santa Clara. And so from my perspective, that, hey, what's the plans for Morgan Hill? And so I did reach out to Christina. She's reached out to Matt Mayhood to find out a little bit more information. So Matt, if you'd like to take it from there and provide an update, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. Nick, I think it's a really good question. I'm not sure we have the answer yet.
Okay.
Right now, Sutter is focused on tenant improvements and getting the existing facility at Juan Hernandez that they've been taking over, that they've leased, up and operating as a facility. They're still waiting on tenant improvement permits. They have some operations there now. They've rebranded, but they were slow to submit tenant improvements, and now they're just driving on the city like we're going to give them permits while we're all on furlough. But we're working with them closely to get their tenant improvements done and get that facility up and running. As it relates to what they do with the existing property, like they told us when they purchased the property about a year ago, they're not sure what their timing is. I am reaching out to their facility and development teams to find out what their plans are, but I still think that strategy for them is under development. So I'm not sure we have a clear plan. We do want to encourage them to complete the entitlement process on those lands. As you may remember, Brookfield was trying to upzone the property from 125,000 square feet to about 275,000 square feet. So they're halfway through that process, 3/4 of the way through the process. We want to encourage them to finish that. So I think that's as it relates to Sutter. As it relates to the rest of medical, we want to recruit additional providers into Morgan Hill. There are a lot of other users out there, a lot of other providers out there, sorry. The challenge is we don't necessarily have places to put them. So as you do know, we did approve medical use in our industrial zones about 2.5 years ago when we did the industrial optimization policy. So we're trying to encourage a couple of our developers to consider whether it's either on commercial land or industrial land to develop some medical office, because we actually believe it will fill. If they build it, they will come. But building medical office is very expensive, and as you know, Nick, and it's an expertise. And I've been talking to a developer who actually does that for a living, and they do have interest in talking to some of our development partners. But that's where it's at. So it's an ongoing strategy, and it's probably a long game.
Well, it's just great to see and actually kind of feel the investment on medical services here at Morgan Hill. It's been a long time coming and a lot of work being done in that area. So I'm really happy to hear the updates, and obviously whatever the chamber can do to help provide support for that, we're on board.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. John Horner.
There we go. It's fine, my unmute. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City. Thanks for the work and the report. I'm one concern, I guess, coming from my perspective with the school district, many of our families are deeply concerned about potential impacts of a deportation drive. And I'm wondering what we're hearing and seeing from the business community, both on the employee side and potentially on the demand side. I know that statewide in California, 1 in 6 of our public school children. It's from a mixed status family where, some people have all their paperwork and some don't. And I suspect in South County that proportion is even higher. I know I've seen county-wide numbers of around 400,000 people that either don't have, full papers or are in the county under some deferred status, temporary status. I have a friend in Sunnyvale that, they just lost one of their staff members that was here from Ecuador, under an application for asylum, and we're allowed to work while the application was in process, but now the application has been denied, and somebody that's been in country for 10 years is back to Ecuador, and they're missing a staff person. So I wonder what we're hearing from the business community in that regard, and how we plan to approach it.
Yeah, thank you, John. I think at one point here, I'll turn that over to Nick and see what he's been hearing. From my perspective, I've not been hearing from businesses that are expressing any concern at this point. I think what we look at historically is in the first 4 years of the Trump administration, I don't believe we were targeted, our community was targeted by any of those sorts of deportations efforts. And it's hard to say. Who knows what that's going to look like. Based on what we are hearing, of course, is those initial efforts for deportation will be based around criminal activity and or terrorism types of efforts. And so I don't believe we have that really going on here in Morgan Hill. However, there could be some concerns, and no doubt there are concerns of some of our immigrants who are living in Morgan Hill, but I've not been hearing from the business community about any of that concern at this point. Nick, have you been hearing anything?
Not from the business community, no, not at this point. We should be thinking about obviously some of the uncertainty that lies ahead, and then how obviously we can be prepared and or mitigate some of those issues. But at this point, I have not heard any voices coming through our office of concern. Does not mean that it's not happening, but well, we're obviously new into the year itself, and we'll kind of see where things go in the very near future for sure.
Okay, thank you for that. Alex, you have a question.
Yes. Actually, it's a comment, and thanks to the efforts of the mayor, we are in process. The Open Space Authority is in process of negotiating the last little bit for with the West Hills Church for access to our staging area. Hopefully, if that goes through, then we only have 3 more loops to jump through. I've been working on this for 20 years, and maybe I don't know, we'll see it in my lifetime, but we'll probably see the results in Brittany's lifetime, but having the loop trail up and running. And of the 3 loops, there's really only one that's an issue, and I've already discussed it with the mayor. That's the very top. The rest of it should go pretty smoothly. So, yeah, thank you. So that'll add one aspect. We should bring in some people coming in from a wide area who've been looking for this trail to be open, which would, of course, hikers will always like to stop for lunch in downtown Morgan Hill, right?
Okay, thank you, Alex. And I think, and you're right, Alex, that certainly will play into our tourism opportunities. I mean, people, if you've not been to the top of El Toro, it is quite a sight to see. And I think it becomes an opportunity here for us to take advantage of those tourism visitors, to be able to get them to spend, like you said, spend money in our downtown, have lunch, and be a part of our community. So we're looking forward to that. And again, whatever I can do to continue to help, and the city staff as well, let us know.
Okay, thank you. Kathy, you have a question.
Yes, good morning, Mayor and city staff. You spoke about the sports center and the recreation and tourism. What are your priorities for the local teams that play here and for local citizens to use those sites? Because sometimes I know that since they're booked up by some of those larger teams and bigger activities, do we have a set priority so that we ensure that the local teams and our local children and families can use those centers also? Do you have a priority or percentage?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, I don't know what the percentage is, but certainly the use by our residents and our children is a high priority. It's that balancing act between, making sure that our kids have access, our community has access to the sports complex, as well as the opportunity for tourism dollars, and that sort of a thing. That's part of the reason, really, for the master plan to redo the sports complex, because it will provide us with more opportunities for, I say additional fields, but fields that can be used for multi-purpose sports. Again, the goal of trying to get and work with the county in order to allow more lands to be used for sports opportunities would also open up the opportunity and priority as well. I was actually working with a couple of kids over at the apartment complex near the baseball fields, and they are talking to me about, hey, we'd like to see these fields turned into turf because the fields are not maintained well, and there's potholes, and they're saying, hey, we want something on our side of town. And so I've begun to work with them and having many conversations with people who could be very helpful in making that happen. Part of that would be, again, through this foundation that we've established, would be able to raise money in order to make that happen. And so those sports fields there on where the baseball diamonds are is a priority of mine in order to try to get those converted to turf, and would allow, again, more of our residents, our kids, to participate, to play on that field, and to have a more quality field to use. And so that's something that we're working on. But again, as far as the percentage, Kathy, I think it's a great question. I don't have that percentage. Chris Gioni probably would have a better understanding of what that looks like, since he's helping to manage all of that. But again, I appreciate your concern for that, because it is something that we've got to do as we're doing these sports opportunities, as we're looking for tourism dollars and those sorts of things. We can't lose sight of the fact that we want our kids to participate and be a part of that, because it really does play into, I'm working with Nick and some other residents here with regard to our Healthy Morgan Hill initiative. Part of that Healthy Morgan Hill initiative is about activity. And we know that kids who are active physically have greater learning opportunities as well. Those learning opportunities play into success in life and in business, as they pursue various trades and opportunities there. So we want to make sure that our kids, our community, has access to these sports fields.
So do you have a timeline for that update on the master plan, so we can ensure that stakeholders participate also, or do you welcome them, or is the contact really Chris?
I would welcome anyone interested in wanting to participate and help in funding. It's years, Kathy, it's years. I'd love to think that, hey, man, by the end of the year, we're going to make something. It's years and years away. It's a big effort. The master plan is approximately, to do the whole thing, if we could do it all at one time, it's about $100 million. But it doesn't mean that we couldn't, if we were able to get $5 or $10 million, start work on some portion of those fields in order to get them converted to turf and create more multi-use opportunities on them as well.
Yeah, I was really talking more about the current uses and what the current priorities are, but I don't want to take up too much time here, but maybe we can speak later and get a better idea of, how you set your priorities, who sets the priorities, and if you have that commitment that you've already stated, that it's critical to balance and make sure that our local families and children use it, then that's good. It's sometimes those opportunities are missed because they're already booked. So if we can,
exactly.
That's currently and long term. So it's good to have a current plan and a long term plan. So yeah, we will bring in together some of the other stakeholders so they can participate also. Thank you.
That'd be great. Thank you, Kathy.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Any other questions for the mayor? Doesn't look like it. So why don't we move on to Hanna and let her introduce herself and talk about priorities for Gail Pellerin's office.
Hi, everyone. It's really great to be with you. Thank you for having me. I know you wanted the assembly member, and I'm going to get her in here soon. not today, but soon, which is okay because it's only day 4 of the legislative session today. So unfortunately, I don't have specifics that I can really report on yet, but I can get you a little up to speed on her priorities and goals and new things happening in our office because a lot has changed since the last year. So like I said, I'm her field representative. We have 4 total. We just hired a new one in Santa Cruz, and we have myself and Rob Moore, who is also the vice mayor of Los Gatos, covering Santa Clara County. And what was I gonna say about that? So yeah, we also cover Los Gatos all the way into Santa Cruz. I hope all of you know that, but she's got a huge district and it carves out a bunch of parts of Santa Clara County, but definitely has almost all of Morgan Hill and Santa Cruz. And I am responsible for Morgan Hill. So please know that I'm your girl. If there's anything that you ever need that you would like the assembly member to come to or be aware of, I will share my contact information, and please reach out to me so I can relay that to her, because Morgan Hill and South County in general is a huge priority to the assembly member. If you don't know her, her ever-present priorities that are kind of always underlying in her work are bolstering mental health services. If you're doing anything around mental health, she will want to be there. Supporting families, generally, her bills kind of peripherally try to help families out. And fair and secure elections. She was the county clerk in Santa Cruz for years and years and the chief elections official, and she's brought that experience into the legislature and is the chair of the elections committee. Thank you, John, for listing her committee assignments. As chair of the elections committee, we can expect her to carry a bunch of elections related bills this session. In addition to that, she will also probably be carrying bills around housing, and she has a bill that might clean up some of the AI bills that happened. Again, I'm sorry I can't speak very specifically because these bills are still being worked on and seeing if we're gonna, introduce them. So by the end of February, we will have a bill package that I'm excited to share with you guys. With the rest of the legislature, the assembly member, the election outcome was a big wake-up call for her, and something I've heard her talking about a lot in 2025 is wanting to address affordability issues in the state, especially as it relates to the cost of gas and energy, our insurance crisis, which we're really, really seeing bad stuff happen in Southern California with that going on, groceries and housing. So she's keeping a local focus on different parts of our district, but also working with the rest of the legislature on the big issues that Californians have been honestly kind of banging on the window, like, please help with the affordability crisis. Otherwise, it is always a goal for the assembly member to stay engaged with the district. Hopefully each of you have seen Assembly Member Pellerin at something in Morgan Hill. She likes to stay close. She really likes to be involved with the economic development happening with the chamber. We'll likely be visiting businesses again in Morgan Hill this upcoming year, and seeing how things are going for them and how the state can help more. Also, I didn't know I would be able to share about this, but you guys might have heard that the governor put out his budget. So that's in the works. I'm not super savvy with all of the legislative stuff and the back and forth that they do around the budget, but all I heard was that there's no shortfall for the first time in a couple of years, and that's good news. I'm hoping it stays that way. So that's kind of I have one more thing to share. Sorry. we have a new district director, which I am super excited about. She's coming from Councilmember Dev Davis's office, from San Jose. If you're not familiar with Dev Davis, she covered mostly Willow Glen. She was very focused on blue zones and healthier San Jose in general. And I know that's a big priority for Morgan Hill and its development. So we're really excited to have her former chief of staff be our district director, because she's gotten, her hands into the blue zone stuff and worked with the county. And she is from Morgan Hill, born and raised. So she's our first staffer that's actually from South County. She lives right across the street from the Rainieri family at Terra Amico Farms. And I'm really, really excited about the perspective that she's bringing to the team. And Morgan Hill will continue to stay top of mind for our office, especially with her on board. So I'm happy to take any questions that I can answer.
Okay, so any questions for Hanna?
I think Marby?
Yeah, just a quick question, Hannah, who is the new district director? I didn't hear her name mentioned.
Great question. Her name is Marianne Grown.
Oh,
Martin
okay.
Grown is her husband. He's
Yes, I know
part of the-
Marianne.
Yeah,
Got it. Thank you.
yeah. And I was hoping she could come to this meeting, but she's going to our Santa Cruz office today to work with those field representatives.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
John Horner.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you, Hannah. Yeah, I think Marianne is still a Morgan Hill resident. I know last time I spoke to her, she was.
She's apparently one street away in
Oh, okay.
San Martin.
Yeah. That's within the Morgan Hill Unified School District, so it still counts from my point of view. Yeah, no, thank you for all that, and certainly want to again also extend an invitation to Gail to come visit our schools when she's in town visiting the businesses. See her work on the workforce development and diversity in the innovation economy. That overlaps both with the mayor's initiative and the work we're doing here in the school district. And then finally, I see she and other assembly members on the select committee on wine. So may I humbly suggest they make a fact-finding mission to South County to find out a little bit more about our local wines. And I'm sure Nick would be happy to arrange an appropriate tour. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, yes. We had an amazing tour with John McKay, actually. Now it's like a couple of years ago, huh, John? But it was awesome. And the assembly member has been, I wanted to talk about that because we have the agritourism stuff going on the county level now. And I'm hoping, yeah, we could get all hands on board, kind of bolstering that kind of tourism in Morgan Hill and South County as well. She's not the chair of the select committee on wine, and I know she's had a pretty hard time kind of rallying the group to make that a priority and to get them to come to Morgan Hill. I'm going to try harder again this year for that because I'm excited also with the county caring more about the agricultural side of Santa Clara County.
Well, great. I should have assumed John McKay was way ahead of me on that. So good job, John.
Okay, question from Victor.
Yeah, hey, Hannah, good morning. First of all, congratulations on having Mariette on board. When I was chief of staff to the vice mayor of San Jose, we had a pleasure of working together up there, and a great hire. So congratulations on that. Just wanted to share with you something that may be food for thought as you consider legislation specifically around housing. I was having a conversation about a week ago with Speaker Rivas. When I was mayor of Hollister, he was on the board of Soups, so we've known each other for years. We were having a conversation last week specific to LAFCO, and I know this question came up to Mayor Turner earlier today. And one thought that we had, and again, this is just a suggestion, Hannah, something for the assembly member to think about. One thing we discussed relating to LAFCO was if a city has a general plan designation on a property that's outside of the city limits, but within the sphere of influence, we were having discussions of a potential bill that essentially by right, it would allow and literally bypass LAFCO and say, hey, if we want the housing, if the city of Morgan Hill wants the housing, yet it's outside or these sports fields, whatever it may be, and it's outside of the city limits, if it's consistent with their general plan, the action of LAFCO would have to be ratified no matter what. So by right, essentially that would really help us meet some of our arena numbers, and certainly help with other types of projects. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. It's a conversation I had with Speaker Rivas. We're talking about that now to see if that's a potential. But LAFCO in many communities is really the problem. And in Santa Clara County, I've worked on a project, Curly Ranch, just south of Gilroy. The city has it within its sphere of influence for housing, yet I got shot down at LAFCO. And Santa Clara County LAFCO is, trust me, not a friend of housing. So again, Hannah, just wanted to share that with you, not a question, but just a thought as the assembly members considers housing bills.
Yeah, and thanks, I mean, generally, thanks for bringing that up. We're still workshopping bills, so if there are any great bill ideas, please send them my way, especially if they specifically benefit communities like Morgan Hill. I just dropped my email address if you want to connect over this. I want to make sure I get your idea down correctly and relay it to the assembly member, because it is a good one, and she should be able to talk to the speaker about it.
And Hannah, if I could jump in real quick, I do in hearing Victor's point there. Victor, I would say that LAFCO isn't necessarily opposed to housing. They're opposed to annexing land. They're all about infill projects and more higher density, high rise, and I say high rise, but 3-4, story type buildings. They just don't want, and that's the frustration, is they don't want to allow additional lands into cities for development. They're pushing it all to, as you probably know, they're pushing it all to infill, which can create some challenges there as well.
Yeah. One of the challenges, Mark, if I could just jump in really quick, one of the challenges
Sure.
we had in Gilroy was they said, well, Victor, you don't really need these empty lands south of Gilroy. You could just build a 10-story building in downtown Gilroy and that'll meet your housing numbers. Candidly, that's ridiculous.
Right.
Nobody's going to move to Gilroy to live in a 10-story building in downtown. So, no, I agree with you that they're not necessarily anti-housing, but they're just making it really challenging to annex, really, as you mentioned, Mayor, any land into any city, even if they want it.
Yeah. Yep.
If I could add something, Victor, you're talking about the sphere of influence line. Most cities have a urban growth boundary. That would be more relevant than the sphere of influence line, because I know in Morgan Hill, we've got stuff inside our sphere of influence line that's outside the urban growth boundary that we don't really want to develop. We've left that land where we're trying to protect it. So it may be helpful to focus it on the urban growth boundary as opposed to the sphere of influence line, or at least something to think
Great
about.
point.
Good discussion. Nick, you have a question?
Yeah, a question and just a quick thank you, Hannah, for being with us this morning. And I know it's early in the year. And what I would recommend with Larry and Rick, we have you back after obviously your bill package is put together, so we can get into some specifics, not just at a state level, but then how that trickles down into our local Morgan Hill area. So thank you for that. I also, while I have you on the phone, I want to make sure that we put that on the marker. We had a wonderful first business walkabout with Assemblymember Pellerin last year, as you mentioned. It was really highly successful for the businesses as far as feedback of the event itself. So I want to make sure we have that on the radar, so we don't miss that as well. But again, I just wanted to thank you for your time, as well as Assemblymember Pellerin's time to putting this together. But love to have you back after, obviously, we get entrenched a little bit further into 2025.
Yeah, while we're on that, I think as a field representative, when we do these like business walks, I want to make sure that the businesses are feeling like it's serving them. That's the point of it. So if you have ideas on how that could be more beneficial, if there's a different way that it should be done than just a tour, because the idea was sparked from the assembly member just loving walking through these business districts and meeting some of the smaller shop owners, but we work for you guys, so however you want us to meet you, we'll be
We
there.
definitely have some ideas how to kind of restructure that based on the first learning lesson. But every amount of feedback that I got from those business owners was very positive, and they enjoyed the time in front of the assembly members. So we'll rethink that. But I'd like to kind of put that on the docket and on the radar, so we don't lose that opportunity again for 2025, right? And I'm thinking that Mark, I'm sure you're writing down some notes as well. But as it relates to Healthy Morgan Hill, we'll definitely set some time up with Marianne to bring her up to speed with that and kind of bring her into the fold as well.
Yes, absolutely. And her and I have been emailing back and forth about she's interested in doing kind of a kickoff event. She has an office here at City Hall.
Right.
The assembly member does, which that's the office that Marianne will be working out of. And so when she's here in the city, so she wants to do some sort of a kickoff event. So we'll coordinate with her on that and then let others know. And I'll be bringing her up to speed, certainly on Healthy Morgan Hill. She's very aware of it, especially because in working for Deb Davis, Deb was, I think, the individual who was sort of leading the charge for San Jose. So she's quite familiar with blue zones, but very, very familiar with what we're trying to do here in Morgan Hill.
Very good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Joe, you have a question.
Oh. Rick, I already made the comment. That was about the difference between an urban growth boundary and sphere of influence lines.
Okay, Kathy.
Yeah, I just want to, I don't have a question, Hannah. Good morning. But I do have some information for everyone that's on this Zoom meeting. And that is that Gavilan has been working for a few years on housing on our campus in Gilroy. And for some of you who know, we had this great ribbon cutting in Hollister for our new campus. And so we have a lot of that planning and design already done. And more importantly, for our region, we have the land. And so I think we all understand that housing anywhere that's built will help enhance South County. So any partnerships, any support would be appreciated. And since the state has a, what did you call it, Hannah?
No budget shortfall.
No shortfall,
Yeah.
then we're hoping to get some of those monies that are available now to build housing. And our president, Dr. Avila, had tremendous success in building housing at his previous college in Santa Rosa. So if anyone is able to support, whether it's the city, whether it's the different departments in encouraging that housing, students at Gavilan and at a lot of the colleges throughout Santa Clara County have, they're unhoused some, and they have housing insecurities. So any housing that can be built in our area will improve the life of the whole county. So I urge you to contact Dr. Avila so that we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Noting this.
Thank you. John Horner, you have a question, comment?
Thank you. Yeah, I just posted a link in the chat to an article relevant to this topic. So one of the things on housing is that often landowners, the one I posted was regarding a winery in Saratoga, but this winery in Saratoga had long provided for one of their worker families a place to safely, cleanly, and non-visibly park their RV. The county said, no, you're not allowed to do that. It's now actually, off to court as a, constitutional rights issue. But this is something that happens everywhere, and the state could have an allowed by right, within certain reasonable health and safety restrictions. When you think not only about housing but supporting our agribusinesses and others, our family, we happen to live on acreage outside of town. I would be delighted to provide a couple of clean, safe parking spaces for RVs for people that that needed a place to safely do that. But the county says no, you simply can't, no matter what. There's no, that's an RV park, that blah 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 blah. So, yeah. So in fact, we did put an ADU on our property for our daughter. We thought it would be $300,000. It ended up over $700,000. So. So she has a place to live, and I guess here $700,000 is quote cheap for a little house, but $700,000 for 1,200 square feet is kind of outrageous. But that's a place the state could step in, and local communities, We just block it at every turn. There's a prejudice against RVs. And anyhow, it's one piece that the state could say, you know what, you're allowed to do this by right.
Yeah, no, these are great ideas. Thank you. And that's typically just, I think I can share about that. When the assembly member has had housing bills, they've just kind of been for details like this, like smaller barriers that, you know, can get a lot more people in safe housing or interim housing. So, yeah, I don't know which housing bills will make it to the end, but, or make it to introduction. So I will also pass these along to our legislative team if some of these ideas sound better to them than what they're considering. Any other questions or comments? I dropped my email in the chat. And I know like Nick has my email, John has my email, a bunch of people in here, probably Kathy, this John too. So you can always get it if you don't get it here.
Okay, and thank you very much, Hanna, for your presentation today and for taking questions. We have a few minutes left. Why don't we look for any updates, announcements that folks have? Let's start with maybe Joe from the Planning Commission.
We haven't met since mid-December. The next meeting is next week, and I know there's one residential project that I've heard's on the agenda. Otherwise, I don't have all the agenda details yet.
Okay. Larry, any comments in general around this meeting and anything going on in economic development or government relations?
Yeah, just for everyone on the call, as we launch into 2025, we want to have more of these kinds of sessions where we bring presentations and speakers from different levels of government and different aspects that affect business and the local economy in Morgan Hill. So if you have thoughts and ideas on that, shoot them to Nick, Rick, or myself so we can schedule those up like we were doing at the end of last year as well. I thought we had some really great statewide speakers come join us. We want to continue that, but only in ways that are useful and helpful to all of you so we don't waste your time. Briefly on the downtown property improvement district, that board is having a strategic retreat on Friday where we'll do our planning for 2025 and beyond. And I'm sure coming out of that, Brittany will be able to update us on a lot of the things that the PBID will want to be doing, and hopefully ways that the chamber and others can partner with the PBID on some of those activities. Thanks, Rick.
Okay, thank you, Larry. Anything from city economic development, Matt or Brittany?
No, I think the only comment I want to make on it as it relates to like, you know, the mayor gave a great summary of some of the, you know, ongoing initiatives, but I do want to make sure that everybody is aware that, you know, there are fundamental pillars of the city's work in economic development that first and foremost, we're focused on business retention and expansion. So it's keep what we have and then try to grow those businesses as well. And we've actually had some really good success with growing some of our local businesses in the last year. And we want to keep doing that because it's a lot easier to keep what you have and help them grow than to recruit. The second part of that is marketing and promotion. We're continuing with our Manufacture Morgan Hill advertising campaign, promotional campaign. In 2025, partnered with the Business Journal, have a digital presence there, a social media presence, some articles that we have posted, and then the third thing is, you know, we really try to support development, service the ombudsman internally for developers. We spend a lot of time with our developers and our businesses trying to get things through the city process. It's not an easy process to get through, and we try to, you know, do a lot of that work and work with our brokers and our developers. And then the last thing is we are looking at various policies within the city to make it easier to get projects out of the ground. So zoning changes, various incentives the city can provide. And we'll probably be bringing some things to the city council and the planning commission in 2025 that we think will make it a little bit easier for projects to get done. So just a brief overview.
Thank you, Matt. Nick, anything from the chamber?
More to come, Rick, on that. We'll be bringing to the board this month the plan of activities for 2025, and as soon as we clear that passage, we'll go ahead and make the announcements in various meetings. We'll start actually in the February breakfast meeting as well. So more to come.
Good, thank you. John McKay, anything on the Downtown Association?
Thank you, Rick. There's really not a lot of activity I can report on. We haven't met for a couple of months. I think we're all of our organizations are going into our retreats and we're planning our events for the year. So one of the things that that came out of a meeting that we had last year, several of you were there. I know Mayor Turner was. Nick couldn't make it, but we talked about how the organizations within the community could work together a little bit more closely. One of the things that came out of it was creating a special event around Christmas. And so I'm starting to work with some of the organizations. I think I've mentioned this to several of you that we want to create Destination Morgan Hill for Christmas. And so I'd like everybody to keep that in mind when you go into your retreats and you talk about what you want to plan for the year. Have ideas that you want to bring forward, and maybe be a little bit more adventurous this time, because there's an opportunity for us to work together and do something larger as we work together. So that's one of the things that's being worked on, or is going to start to be worked on. And part of that ended up being a discussion about how our events are basically staged over the course of the year. I think I mentioned this before. We crowd our events towards the end of the year, and we kind of cannibalize each other. So we're trying to get everybody to think about spreading your events out more across the year instead of bunching them up. And the first 2 quarters of the year usually the most open for events, and also what we find is that we don't have that much community event fatigue that early in the year. So something to think about when you go into your retreats, and let's talk about working together in the year coming up and the years coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Kathy, anything more from Gavilan?
Well, we're going to be having our kickoff for the new semester on January 27th on the Gilroy campus, and on January 29th at the Hollister campus. And that's pretty phenomenal, because that will be the first time we have students there in, I think it was 80 years when we were first starting in Hollister. Most people don't know that Gavilan started in Hollister and then moved to Gilroy because of the issues of population density. And now we have students that are going to be signing up for classes and attending this spring. So that's really exciting. That's a big deal. The other is working with Kiwanis. We volunteer and are a significant player in the Christmas parade. So I think that's good that John is talking about us coordinating different events. You know that Kiwanis is a big part of the July 4th celebration, offering many, many volunteer hours, and then also the Mushroom Festival, as it's called now. So Kiwanis is very involved in all these community events, and I agree that we need to have some coordination, because you do have some of this, I forget what you called it, John, the fatigue, the event fatigue, but also overlapping events on the same day, where we have people who want to go to 2 or 3 different events, but they're all on the same day. So we've talked about that when I was on the board for the Morgan Hill Historical Society, and having to plan around Rotary or Kiwanis or all the other dates. It would be really nice if we could coordinate more so we can have more people attend these events, because they're all very worthwhile and they bring a sense of community to us. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Alex, any additional updates from open space?
Yeah, actually there is. I work as part of my job. I work with the Farm Bureau, and the subject came up in the last board meeting about if the new administration exercises as advertised their deportation policy. They don't have a plan B. They're quite worried about what that could mean. And just this last week, a couple of weeks, my computer geek is right across us, just down the street from the police station there in Vineyard Court. And they share in the same building as ICE, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Agency. And I notice with the several visits this week, the ramping up of what they're doing. They have more vehicles. There's more people. The parking lot is overflowing. So they're getting ready for action. And then we talked about housing. And guess where the labor comes from for that? So it's something to consider for our planning. It may not be the same, or it'll just cost so much more. I mean, are we going to import the labor from Kansas? They don't know. So it's something to keep in mind. And then I wish John was still here, but Kathy, has it come up with your with the students and how that'll affect your student body? I know it will in Morgan Hill, potentially, not knowing how far this policy is going to go. So it's an issue not just in one area. It's an issue in so many areas of what we've been talking about here today. I'm not trying to scare anybody. It's just, it's been brought up by too many points of what we've been talking about. Talked to one contractor about another subject, and he brought it up. Wasn't even on the our agenda. We were just chatting, and he's worried. He doesn't know where it's going to come from. So there.
I can just add, just to let you know, Alex, that our population in Gilroy is very high in the Latino community. But we also, I got kind of a summary from, I don't know if any of you know Richard Hobbs. He's an immigration attorney that's been practicing here in Santa Clara County for many, many years. And I think one thing, I'm surprised that people in our businesses are not bringing it up, because we have people working in every industry that have a potential to be deported, to be held. And I have made sure to tell all my family, if I don't speak, people think that I might be an immigrant also. So it's not just about people going over there, it's how you look. And in San Jose, growing up and running our business for over 45 years, I was stopped many, many times. And then when I spoke and I could let them know, hey, I'm not just born here, but I'm Native American, then that would stop. But not everybody can do that. So this is a real issue. We have a potential losses of good workers in every single industry. And what I will do is, I don't have it in front of me now, but I will send it to Nick so that he can see the percentages in each of the industries that are really talking about. In fact, I think one of them I sent to you when I was nominating someone for Celebrate, and I included that paragraph. So you already have it in there. And it talks about the breakdown of percentage of how many jobs will be impacted in every industry, in every city across the United States. So I think that might be helpful, Nick, if you can look at that.
That's my Debbie Downer report then.
Yeah.
well, a real issue. So let's keep our eyes and ears open and see what we can do. Anything else? Anybody have anything else they'd like to communicate? If not, thank you very much for attending. Hanna, we hope to have you back again later in the year, maybe once some of the priorities are set. And thank you everybody for attending today, and Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
New Year.
See you guys soon. Bye.